All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today with me. I have a very, very special guest, and I can't wait to formally introduce her. Just so you know, this person is so incredible and amazing. I've been following her for a little while now, and I'm so grateful to have you on the show with us and in contribution to the listeners and things like that. Thank you in advance for your time. So with me today is an incredible lady who is an entrepreneur, author, artist, and a trailblazer indeed. She is the founder of T3, an innovative digital agency that grew under her leadership for over 30 years in the largest women-owned independent agency in the United States. Through her speaking career, her book, Cowgirl Power, I love the title, How to Kick Ass in Business and Life, and custom leadership training. She empowers the next generation of business leaders to take their big leaps in their careers and lives. She's a contributor to Forbes and recently found and launched her Women Who Mean Business, a women's development program that is where she co-teaches at Macomb School of Business at Utah. In Utah, is it Utah?
No, it's University of Texas in Austin.
Okay, University.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's also an artist. She is bold and vibrant, as you can see. She loves to paint, and her work is shown in several prestigious galleries around the country, including New York City and Santa Fe, and Texas Monthly Magazine, and named her as one of the top 10 artists to collect now. She is currently on the cover of Texas CEO magazine. Her home and private art gallery is in Texas Hill Country, and that currently feature on also in Austin Homes magazine. And she's receiving awards, including, oh my gosh, so many things, recognition from the University of Texas and distinguished alumni awards as well. So please help me welcome, with no further ado, Gay Gaddis. Thank you so much for being here with us, Gay, today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for inviting me. This is a fun time. So
Yes. So I would love to sit and hear about everything about you, but of course our time is limited. So let's just start by asking, because you've done so many things, please share with us a short story or your story of how everything started for you and what really inspired you to do what you do today, Gay.
Well, when I started my company in 1989, a lot of you may not have even been around then, but the country was in a very, very deep recession. And Texas was particularly hurt at the time. The savings and loans failed and the real estate market just tanked. I mean, I always said that the real estate wasn't worth the dirt it was built on. It really wasn't. Everything was devalued. It was really rough times. And I was working for another advertising agency in Austin, Texas at the time, and we were losing business. So I wrote a business plan and reached out with some of my colleagues, and we devised a strategy to build us back and to get things moving again. And I thought I was going to be very successful with that within the agency I was working in, but I made one mistake. And that was that I did not bring the president of the company along with me. And so all of a sudden I just announced this plan to our advisory board. He was taken aback because I was taking this strong leadership step and kind of overstepping him in a way. And so he rejected it and said, no, we're not going to do this. Well, immediately I just decided I've got to go do this, because I was so invested in my strategy and how we were going to really make a difference in the market. So I quit. And I was so broke at the time. I mean, seriously, I quit the next day and I got mad and quit and cashed in my $16,000 IRA, which is all I had to my name, and started a little agency. And that was where it all started back in 1989 in sleepy little Austin, Texas. You know, everyone's so enthralled with Austin today, but Austin was not much going on back in 1989 in Austin. And so we just dug our heels in, and I had 2 other employees, and that was it, just me and 2 others. And we had 3 clients to start with, and off and running we went. And it was a really, really exciting, scary journey, but it paid off. I'm so glad I did it. It was the best thing I ever did.
Oh my goodness. So before we even really get into the even more exciting part of how, successful it ended up and where you are now, I just want to really zero in on just the fact what you said in terms of only having $16,000 from IRA account and just believing in this concept, believing in yourself and taking that leap of faith. I have goosebumps like running up and down my body right now. So for you audience listening, sometimes that's what you have to do, and take that leap of faith and really trust that this next thing you're going to do is going to be completely massive and successful versus that is going to fail. I think what's oftentimes happens is that fear of failure that's holding all of us back.
I'm sure.
I don't think, Gay, right, sounded like you didn't even have time to think about how to fail, but like, how do I launch this thing?
Well, that's a really interesting concept because to me at the time, I absolutely could not fail because my husband had taken a huge pay cut. We had 3 kids. We were broke. I mean, we were really in bad financial situation at the time. And so failure was just not an option. And no matter what I had to do, I had to pull it off. And if I had to make quick corrections or change things or do whatever, we had to make it happen. And so it was just positive force. We have to go forward and we cannot fail because my family depended on it. Even my mom, I was helping to support her. And so it was just really one of those things where you just woke up every day. I always said I had a blowtorch behind me every morning when I woke up because I always had to get going, make it happen and make money.
Yeah, so that's exactly, I had a feeling that was what you were going for, was success was the only option. There's no option to fail. So
well, sometimes when you start a business, you do have a safety net, but I did not have one. And so this was it. And if it didn't work, then we were all pretty much in bad shape. And there weren't, see, the thing is, there weren't other jobs to just go get because we were in a deep recession and most people were not hiring. So even someone talented was having a very hard time landing a job that paid at all, really. And so I had to make it work. There's really no other way.
Yeah, we'll get to circle back to this beginning in a little bit because it's very relevant to what's really going on right now, right? Like very similar to where you were and with the direction that we're going. But let's focus on the positive. Talk to us more about how it all panned out. I mean, I'm sure there were challenges. I guess share with us a couple of challenges that you were able to overcome and made it a real success for you and for your family.
Well, it has been a success story. And the more I look back on it, because I did sell the business 3 years ago, and that's part of the story. But the more I look back on it now, I realized that it was kind of an amazing thing that happened. And it was because of the fabulous people that I put around me. And one of the things I think we get in the way of when we're growing a business or trying to survive in a business is ourselves. We get in the way. And so I learned early on, and fortunately, one of my prior jobs was working with a management consulting firm. And it was 4 guys who got their MBAs at Harvard. And one of the big things that they did when we were in consulting roles was give the Myers-Briggs or some other sort of DISC or some kind of assessment to these teams so that everyone could see where their strengths were and how they could work better together. So fortunately, I was very familiar with my strengths and my weaknesses. So early on, I decided I've got to find someone who does this well, that well, that well. And I focused on what I could do well, which was really actually the people relationships to growing the business. And I was good at managing the money. And so that's what I did. And then I just continued as we could grow. And anytime I could find someone and could afford it, I brought in people that what I said would shore up my weaknesses. And that was my strategy throughout the entire time I ran the business, was always watching people's personality types, putting people in situations that built on their strengths, and then always surrounding myself with people different than me, because it's very easy to hire someone like yourself. I'm an ENTP on the Myers-Briggs, and I could sit around with ENTPs all day and yuck it up and laugh and think about what's next and possibilities and big ideas, but never get anything done. And so it's a really big thing to get a grasp on what your real strengths are, focus on those, and always put people around you that will challenge and shore up your weaknesses, because that's how you can eventually grow and build and build.
Yes, that's so amazing. And I love that. And, it's interesting. I was talking to one of my other business owners the other day, and she said, well, don't you want to hire people that actually better at what you do? Yes, of course, having the skill set, but
Mm.
personality is huge too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because people have to complement each other in what they can do and how we can show up. Like it's almost like um I want to say counterproductive to have, let's say, someone really introverted and etc. to be account building manager. Like they would never know how to follow through with getting people paid because they can't ask for, for whatever it is that they need to ask for. So I love that. And 100%. And that actually is a really great segue into what I want to ask you about.
Mhm,
Tell us about your philosophy of diversity of thought, and
mhm,
what does that really mean in terms of hiring the
mhm.
right talent? Because I know some of the listeners, even including myself, maybe I'm asking for myself, that how important that is in terms of building a team and to move the company forward.
It is absolutely critical. And we've spent a lot of time as a country and probably the world over the past few years really diving into what is diversity and why we should pay attention to it. And there's so many obvious things that, are there. And many companies and many organizations have not paid attention to it. And they all end up looking like each other and acting like each other. And they're not really bringing in diversity of, color, of ethnic backgrounds, of educational backgrounds, all different things that, I even knew one company that hired just almost all their CPA candidates out of one university. And I said,
Wow.
that's not good. I mean, you need to be thinking about how you bring in different ideas, different types, because if they're all cut out of the same regimen and the same structure, then you're going to be limited on your innovation. So really what it goes back to is innovation. And my company was just recognized even by Forrester Research as one of the top 5 innovation firms in the world. We were very innovative. And I can name 100 things we did that were first to market. But the reason was I always paid attention to diversity of thought as well. And that is, I did use Myers-Briggs or some kind of strength test, but my deal was Myers-Briggs, to be honest. And I don't try to tell people that Myers-Briggs is an end all be all, but it's
Right.
very telling because it gives you that core idea of what someone's personality type is and where their strengths are. So when you're building teams, you want to make sure that you have people from different types, the Myers-Briggs, and you mentioned introversion and extroversion. Those are important factors because an introvert brings a different way of thinking a lot of times into a meeting or into the conversation. And so you need people of all different types and help them appreciate those so they listen to each other. I may disagree with someone who's an SJ on the Myers-Briggs vehemently because I'm, an ENTP, but I listen to them because they bring in sometimes those stepping stones that I'm overlooking. So again, always making sure that the teams were mixed up and that we brought in people of different backgrounds and different ways of thinking. And that's where the best ideas came from. Just brainstorming with people who could challenge and think of it, look at it from a different angle, than maybe I would or someone else on the team. So that's, to me, was the secret sauce, if you want to call it, of how we continue to be innovative, because I was very, very attentive to this. And I'd watch those teams and say, who's on that team? Who are you changing and putting on the team? Let's make sure we don't get all, INFPs on that team or whatever. And so it was really, really something that I looked at, and I knew everyone's Myers-Briggs in the whole company, and I watched how they work together. And so it was very important to me. And I think if you learn it, even about yourself and your own team, it will make you more successful, even if it's on a small scale. But, as I got to 250 people, it was a key part to me, making sure in different offices around the country, you didn't want one office to kind of leaned over to a certain type of personality because that's who they were in New York or whatever. So we were always watching, always moving people around, making sure that we mix things up, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think from a innovation standpoint, for sure, right? Because you're seeing different people have different perspective on things, and therefore they can see different things. But even I would say helps you relate to your clients differently, I would say,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like if we always form the same culture and we had someone else coming to us as a client, I'm just speaking for all of us in the
Yeah.
consulting world, right?
Yeah.
And they're from a different culture and we can't have a conversation with them and relate to what it is that they're looking to do. I think even that is a challenge, right? When it comes to client interfacing, not to even mention managing our, dynamic in the team setting.
Well, everybody has customers, maybe you call them clients, maybe you don't. I was in the service business, so we called our customers clients, but then they had customers. And so we kind of would look downstream at our clients' customers and what kind of, where were they from a personality standpoint sometimes, because they would make certain buying decisions. But it's very important. And I even used it with client staff relationships a lot, because I won't go, it's a long story and I won't tell all of it, but once I had a client who came in who was very extroverted, was blurbing out everything he wanted to get done in an annual report, and I brought in one of our best copywriters who was an introvert, and he pulled me out of the meeting and said, "This is the stupidest person I've ever met with. Why is she on my account?" And it's because she wasn't talking, she was listening. And I said, "Give her a chance. Just give me a break here, give her a chance." So he continued on, the meeting was over. A week later, she had completely nailed everything that he wanted to get done and was perfectly worded, perfectly out there, and he was blown away. And so I said, "Okay, y'all are both going to take the Myers-Briggs. We're going to look at how this works." And they became great colleagues and worked really well together for many years. But it was helping them understand their work style and the way they think, and then appreciate that. Because she thought he was a jerk anyway. After he left, she said, "All he did is talk, he just couldn't shut up." And so, it was just an interesting thing to use, not only for our internal teams, but sometimes taking it out into the client relationship too, to solve problems, because it's a good way for conflict resolution too.
Yes.
Just because I don't see things the way you do doesn't mean that I don't like you or I'm obstinate or whatever. It's I don't think that way. And so we could sit down and work out our differences, saying, "Oh, okay, well, you're coming at it from that standpoint. I'm coming at it from here. Let's figure out how this works."
Yes, no, I love this topic and I can talk about this all day long.
Well, me too. It's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah. I think it's, because we love people, and I think it's fascinating to me because coming from my psychology backgrounds, but even I agree with you, right? In approaching different clients of mine really depends on, well, first of all, the learning style, first of all,
Sure.
and who they are, personality, and I would know how to approach them. So for example, if I am coming to one who is more introverted and really, really bold and loud and authoritative, that person may take back and I'm not going to be able to get through. So it's so super important. And I wish I knew this, but I learned it really the hard way by taking on wrong business partners.
Well, now that's a good lesson to learn. And that's one of my lessons learned that I can share with you as well, because the biggest mistakes I ever made in my business was hiring the wrong people at the wrong time. And I didn't want to do it, and I certainly didn't plan on it, but you would interview somebody, they had perfect on paper, they had all the credentials, they had everything that you wanted for that particular job. But something in your gut, maybe it would tell you that, I don't know if this is really the right person, but you hired them anyway, you needed them, you brought them in, and almost inevitably that person would not fit in and almost create havoc in the company. And so until I could escort them out the door and literally have to fire them, I mean, it was because I didn't ever want to leave on their own. And so those were difficult times. And those were some of the toughest calls I had to make. But every time I did, and I got out the person who was almost, destroying the culture and the morale because of how their work style was coming across, then everyone was happy. And they respected me because I didn't let them stay to the point that it was going to destroy the team. And you have to be tough and just say, "Okay, this one's got to go, and I'm going to be the one who does it because I brought them in," and take ownership for it. But that's a tough call, but you have to do it.
Absolutely. So I guess you then would agree to the concept of hire slow and fire fast.
Yes, exactly. And we were really good at hiring. I mean, 99% of the people we hired, and we did take our time. Lots of people talked to them. We had dinners with them. We interviewed. It was, do you really want to get to know the person, where they're coming from, what kind of work style that they're going to bring, the innovation they're going to bring, their specific skill sets, their ideas. And so we would spend a lot of time talking to people before bringing them in. And we wanted them to know people too, because I always tell people on the university level, especially, if you're getting your first job or you're starting to get out there and looking, you really need to look at these companies inside out where you're considering going to work. Because if you don't feel comfortable and it doesn't feel like the culture that you're going to thrive in, then don't do it. And especially now, I mean, there's kind of a lot of opportunities out there. Sometimes we're kind of stuck and saying, gosh, I've got to take this job because I've got to make a buck, and that's too bad. But hopefully that doesn't happen. And you're probably better off waiting anyway if you don't find that comfort place for you that feels like you're going to do your best work.
Yes, no, absolutely. And again, sometimes, like you said, if we're not really trusting ourselves and trusting our instincts, whether it is hiring someone or getting that particular position that feels good to us, then there's inevitably will be a disaster. So let's go back to, right, like now the idea is, yes, we have to make sure that the personality fits and that everyone is diverse and the culture and thinking and etc. So where do you think all of this is going? Because I know at the beginning of the segment, we were talking about, you making that decision, success was the only option during a bad period of time economically. So it seems like we're heading there, or certain parts of the country or the world right now, it's in the midst of it. So what would you tell, especially those women business owners who are like on the fence and they could take that next step, but they're so afraid because, I mean, they could say, oh, the recession is on the way, and how am I going to be able to manage myself, not to mention like launching a business? What would you say to them, Gay?
Well, you have to really dig deep and say, do I have a strategy and plan that's going to work? And don't, but sometimes you overthink that, and you get so wrapped up in it that you never take that step. So don't let that happen either. But you have to think about, how are you going to, I mean, I'm in the marketing business. And so every business has to say, who are my competitors and how am I going to differentiate myself so that I can get business and grow? And so you really have to test that, and make sure that you feel like you're passionate and excited and sure about, that you have the ability to make this work. So once that's done, or if you have an interesting idea or concept that's not out there and you think you can teach the market, I mean, that's another thing too, is that it costs to teach a market about something brand new. My company was not doing something brand new at the time. And we were an advertising agency. And that was a traditional agency days. I called that before digital. And so people knew what we did. It wasn't like I had to teach them about, okay, we produce television spots and we do this and we do that. So it was a matter of just building the relationships and differentiating ourselves that we were going to be the ones to choose. And I always wanted to get results and do excellent creative. And I know that's a very simplistic combination, but it really wasn't. I mean, a lot of agencies I was competing with, they were just about the results and their work wasn't very exciting, or they were just all about the cool awards and the work and they didn't get results. So we were really, really upfront about how are we going to measure this from the very beginning. And that we had ways to differentiate ourselves, and we were lean and mean. And, we, at the time when we started, and really got out there and hustled. And I talked to everybody I knew. I had a good network. At the time, it got bigger and bigger through the years, but your network is everything. And people have to trust you, that they're going to give you their business, that you're going to follow through and you're going to be trustworthy partners in whatever it is you're doing. So, think through all that. But at the same time, you've got to dare and take a risk and just jump out there sometimes. And if it fails, it may fail. I really couldn't fail. I mean, honestly, I would have had to come up with something that worked, but not everything works. And if it's not perfect to begin with, that's okay. You just keep working it and making those mid-course corrections and looking at how you can improve. And you just kind of grow that way and listen to your market. I mean, what's out there? What are they willing to buy? What will they pay for it? And have you really thought through that part of it? So it's really one of those things that it's the most exciting thing you'll ever do. It's really cool. And it also gives you a lot of women, especially I know, have started businesses because they have a little bit more flexibility in what they want to do. That doesn't mean you don't work just as hard. I mean, I worked harder than anybody, but
Yes.
you know, when I first started my business, my daughter was just getting into horseback riding and she was like 3, 4 years old and she was already interested. And so I worked it out where Tuesday afternoons, I could go with her. She was so young that I could go with her and ride at a riding arena and help teach her to ride a horse because that was important to her and me. And so, I mean, unless there was some big crisis, I could do that every Tuesday, you know, 3 o'clock after her little kindergarten thing let out or whatever she was in. And so that was important to me. And had I still been working for the other company, it would have been really awkward for me to say, oh, by the way, every Tuesday I'm headed out at 2:30 and I'll be back maybe, or I'll see you tomorrow. So those are the things that are luxuries of having your own business. And if I had to work from 10 to midnight to make it up, that's okay. You know, I still got to do what I wanted to do. And it gave me some more flexibility. So I'm seeing a lot of people choosing an entrepreneurial route today because they see ways that they can work their lives and their families in better. And it is important.
100%. And that's another thing that I think I'd even have to ask, and you touched on it already, is really understanding the expectations of what it's like between, you know, having a job or being a business owner. There's always pros and cons. And I think it definitely depends on the person's, I guess, values and what they want in life.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what are they willing to sacrifice for, right? I mean, it's ultimately, yes, there's fear involved, there's risk, there's all of that. But for someone who I think who wants flexibility and wants to prioritize family and connection, entrepreneurship is the only way. I mean, I cannot imagine having to raise 2 kids right now, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
working a position. Not to say that corporate or the 9 to 5 is bad at all.
No, and I think a lot of companies, because of COVID, have become a lot more savvy about how to work with their employees. And so that's a good thing, probably for women that happen. But one other thing I'll say about when you start a business and throughout the entire time, I have this real simple phrase that says, know the money. And you've got to understand the finances of your industry and your business and watch it like a hawk. That's how I survived recessions and all the bad things, because I made quick decisions when I had to, when the money was moving. And when we would lose business because of a recession or an account change or whatever, it's tough. And I just had my head around the numbers all the time. And I think it's absolutely critical. You've got to understand the finances, again, of your particular business inside and out. And you can't delegate that to anybody. I mean, you can have a CFO and a CPA and all that stuff. Yes. But as far as just knowing it, you know, you got to know your business, and then you can make good decisions because of it.
Yes, I agree. Well, you know, I feel like I've learned so much just from the last, I want to say 25 minutes from you. And thank you so much for everything that you are and that what you've been doing up until this point. If you have any last minute remarks for the audience, we would love it. But otherwise, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, one quick last thing, you can go to gaygaddis.com, because even though I sell my company, I still have many things going on, including my paintings. You can see those. You can sign up for my newsletter. I do a newsletter that comes out every other week, which they're short, sweet, but they give pearls of advice. And people seem to like those. And so if you can sign up for the newsletter. And then last, if you're interested in the program that we were talking about at the University of Texas, it's called Women Who Mean Business. You can find that on my site too. And it's a great program for women who are either entrepreneur or corporate, and they want to really grow into that next big level. It's not for the entry level women. It's more for 10, 15, 20 years experience, or at least over 5. And so we've been real successful. It's working. So if anyone is interested in any of those things, just go to gaygaddis.com and you can learn as much as you want about it. So invite you to come visit us there.
Great. Thank you so much, Gay. And again, yes, all of those links and everything is going to be included with the segment here and also in our call outs for all of the platforms that we have. Thank you again for your time. And it has been amazing.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, and best wishes to everyone out there who's listening and to you.
Yes. Thank you very much.